Mackenzie Johnston with Cattle News Central, bringing you your March 17th cattle industry headlines. Brought to you by Ag-Risk Advisors. They provide risk management programs to livestock producers all across the West. Whether you are concerned about price or weather risk, Ag-Risk Advisors, they are always here to help. With current day market fluctuations, you and I both know there is nothing more important than locking in a price floor on your cattle. So if you'd like to learn more about an LRP, go ahead and reach out to an advisor today. Also sponsored by American Beef Producer Magazine. They offer in-depth articles on a wide variety of topics within the industry. They feature award-winning photography and so much more within their publication. Their March edition is out. If you'd like to check that out, all you got to do is click on the American Beef Producer link above in the caption, and that will take you over to their Facebook page where you can check out that most recent edition of their magazine. American Beef Producer Magazine, guiding beef producers for over 25 years. And finally, Circle 5 Cow School. If you'd like to learn how to preg check your own cows or start AIing, Circle 5 Cow School is the way to go. Almost every week, they are hosting classes somewhere in between Texas and Tennessee. If you'd like to check out their schedule, head on over to circle5cowschool.com. That is the number 5 in there, or you can go ahead and just give them a follow on Facebook. According to the USDA and the U.S. Meat Export Federation, in the month of January, beef exports totaled 199,066 metric tons, up 13% from a year ago. Value increased by 57% year over year to $1.03 billion. This was the third highest value total on record, and export value of fed cattle slaughter set a new record, topping $500 per head. Korea, China, Hong Kong, and Japan contributed to these red-hot January beef exports. Exports to Korea increased 39% to 29,578 metric tons. However, the real barn burner when it came to Korea in January was that export value nearly doubled to a record $316.5 million. That was up 99% compared to January of 2021. Demand for U.S. beef in China and Hong Kong remained strong in January, with an increase of 69% from last year to 19,772 metric tons. Export value that more than doubled to $194.2 million, up 115%. Pretty significant. Japan, their numbers weren't quite as jaw-dropping. However, exports did increase to that country by 4% to 22,936 metric tons, and value jumped 32% to $181.7 million. According to the Fence Post, on March 14th, CBS Denver reported that Ellen Kessler, an animal rights activist who was appointed to the Colorado Veterinary Board by Governor Polis but resigned this year, she's been charged with 13 counts of misdemeanor animal cruelty. Isn't that funny how karma just finally comes around? Kessler had 13 birds living in her home. Imagine living with 13 birds. We knew she was off her rocker, but this is just the icing on the cake. So someone came to visit on March 7th, and that person found these birds living in her home, and they were living in less than ideal conditions. The visitor called the county to notify them of the animal abuse that was witnessed that day. Later that day, Kessler did allow animal control officers into her home to check the birds out. According to Jefferson County Public Information Officer Carolyn Tilley, there were 13 birds, and most of them were living in the basement with food and water, but they had no sunlight. One of the birds was dead, and then later on, one would die at the vet's office. The basement had an overwhelming smell of urine. There was mice found throughout the house, either dead or alive, and the home had a strong population of flies living in it. The next day, the birds were removed from Kessler's home, and it was determined that the birds would not return because of a variety of health issues. Kessler has been issued a summons for 13 misdemeanor counts of animal cruelty. Under Colorado state law, animal cruelty, a Class 1 misdemeanor, carries a maximum fine of $5,000 per charge with a mandatory minimum fine of $500 and could include jail time of up to 18 months. So to refresh everyone's memory on Kessler's track record, she was appointed to the Colorado State Vet Board back in June of 2020. Controversy followed not long after she was appointed when she made quite a few derogatory statements regarding farmers and ranchers. Then this year, on January 22nd, Kessler went above and beyond and she called ranchers nasty and lazy. This was the statement that broke the camel's back, and Kessler resigned from the vet board on January 24th. Drovers has reported that on Monday, Canada reopened its borders to the importation of Brazilian beef and pork. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency reported that the country has approved the import of raw and cooked poultry meat, pork, and matured beef from Brazil. With the reopening of the Canadian market, Brazilian meat packers, they are now able to export products to more than 200 markets around the world. According to Successful Farming, the Russian military is now targeting and destroying warehouses with ag machinery, undermining food security in Ukraine and around the world. To help farmers and ranchers out in Ukraine, the Ukrainian government has said that it will pay interest on loans to cover any costs associated with ag activities within the country. Additionally, the government is providing guarantees to payments of up to 80% of the amount of loans farmers have obtained. The maximum loan, which is subject to interest rate compensation, is up to $1.5 million. This will allow farmers to obtain funds for planting and provide them with guarantees that in an event of a crop loss, that they are not going to go bankrupt, according to Ukraine's prime minister. There are some stipulations to this financial help. It will only be provided to small and medium-sized ag producers with a turnover of no more than 20 million euros per year. According to the National Health Commission, China, they have reported a total of 5,154 new cases of COVID on Tuesday, and that was just on Tuesday, and that led the country to lock down more than 5,000 people. Chinese local officials say the surge in cases has been driven by the new Omicron variant, which we know is basically like a common cold, but it does spread like wildfire. But again, there is no real threat to human life when it comes to Omicron. Finally, RFD-TV recently had a segment focusing on inflation within farming and ranching. So farm machinery, it has increased in price by 28%, animal feed 36%, natural gas 48%, diesel fuel 54%, and fertilizer a whopping 171%. That is all I have for you guys this morning. That is all I have for you guys this week. I hope your week has been great. We have had beautiful weather here in central Nebraska. It does not get much better than this. You guys have yourself a great rest of your week, a wonderful weekend. Enjoy this weather. I'll see you next week.